this is kind of like a bumper intro to the AOS Stat Center, because we're on our final event now, but we're reviewing with the Twitch chat, as you guys can see. But the Twitch chat has decided, because of the dominance, basically, of Thunder Lizard Seraphon, and this means we won't be able to in any way monetize this video. So if you are watching this back, you can leave some money below. That would be great. Yeah, the chat have decided that this is what Age of Sigmar competitively looks like right now.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Engine of the Gods. Double Battledon. Pack of 2 salamanders. Hello, welcome to the Age of Sigmar Stat Center, which is hosted every Monday, 11 a.m. till 3 p.m. on twitch.tv/Honest Wargamer. This is where we look at the weekend's event results from around the world. I'm joined by the Twitch chat, who can be found right here. This is also a podcast if you'd like to listen. And this is where we analyze some of the lists before Rob and Ziggy put them into the numbers and stats. So this is a more thoughts and feelings, but based off the stats and information that we've seen previously. It's been a big weekend. We've got 6 events from this weekend. We've got them in Denmark, England, USA, Canada, Italy. So all around the world. And it does sound like we've got some exciting news. Our first Gitz 5.0 in Age of Sigmar 3. Huge news. Unsurprisingly low, piloted by Gavin. We'll talk more about that in a bit. And it looks like those Stormdrake Guard, those longstrikes, none of them are an issue because they've been defeated by Seraphon. Dracothian, if you're much of a narrative player, is the original dragon who helped Sigmar in the beginning of the Age of Sigmar. And it seems like that has continued on with the Stormdrake Guard being produced and used around the world. They're not the proper daddies. They are not the dragon daddies. The dragon daddies are Dracothian, although not Dracothian's tail, which is a sub-faction, more coalesced is that side. But I guess they're all Dracothian's children, really. So it all works, right? So Seraphon forever, basically, is what we're saying. Which does tie in with our stats pretty much, because in Age of Sigmar 3 to 3.1, they were still dominating. Their ability to reduce damage by 1. We'll talk about that more in a bit, or we'll start first with the London Open. Let's go and look at this. So London Open, which is an event obviously in London, was held this weekend. I think it had 38 players, might have had 42 players, run by my good friend, Mr. Colonel Cabbage. And it was taken out by Mr. Russell Taylor. Congratulations to him, a previous Daughters of Cain player. He switched over to his Seraphon and has done his first tournament win. Now, he didn't get 4 in a draw, but he did win. He did win his 5th game, but in the pack for the event, you have to win by 2 points. So you have to have a margin of victory of 2 points. Otherwise, it's considered a draw, which is also what I put in my event packs. But Russell did. So Russell is on a 5.0 effectively, although not based on the packs information, but in more standardized scoring, which I guess our pack is the standardized scoring. It's a 5.0. And what did he have in his list? Great question. He had a Slan. He had a Skink Priest, and he had an Engine of the Gods. He had 2 times 10 Skinks, 5 Saurus Guard, and then he was rocking 2 Salamander Hunting Pack and 2 Stormdrake Guard with 2 Battledons. Now, I'm lucky enough to have Russell in the chat right now, and he was talking to me about the fact that no one really attacks the Battledons, no one really tries to interfere with them, because they're just so difficult to shift, and that means they get to keep shooting, which is really, really good. The Engine, he felt, was really, really useful as well, putting that into effect and utilizing that as much as possible. And the Slan, obviously, having a dominant magic phase. Now, those Salamanders do what Salamanders do, being probably still one of the most effective and points efficient units in all of Age of Sigmar. Still, 3 points hikes later, probably the most effective war scroll for its points in Age of Sigmar. We could probably argue that another point, but still very, 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 very good. Obviously, never buy the ones from Games Workshop. You're literally spending money on something that I could build with Play-Doh. Find yourself a good proxy to use for that, because you would never actually want to use those models. They're disgusting. And then he also included 2 Stormdrake Guard, which is quite nice for this army, which plays more of a traditional castle, because he's going to be able to bully board space. And Russell in the chat, again, was lucky enough to be telling me all about that. I think he's lost it. What have I lost? Confirmed Stormcast a new and unusable army. That's true. Stormcast now unusable. In second place, with 4 wins and 1 loss. So the only person in the 4-1 bracket is, shout out to Alexander Theophanius. Definitely got that wrong. Engine of the Gods, Lord Croak, with a spell portal, an Astaroth Bannerbearer, a Skink Priest, another Skink Star Priest, and then a Pterodon Chief. And as pointed out in the chat, little cheeky Pterodon Chief with the Arcane Tome, so you're able to cast spells through that very mobile Pterodon Chief who's only 80 points, so very sacrificable, basically. 5 Saurus Guard, 2x10 Skinks, 1 Salamander, 1 Battledon, not 2, and then an Umbral spell portal, basically. So Seraphon really dominating at the London Open, which is not really a surprise, but that is the first of our events wrapped up. But lots of surprises to come in the rest of the events. In one of the most dangerous cities in the United States, the Emerald City Open happened. 46 of the bravest Age of Sigmar players, maybe in the world, attended. Easily one of the most dangerous cities. Statistically, it's in the top 2% of dangerous cities in the whole of the United States of America. So congratulations to these guys. So this is the Emerald City Open. And it was hosted by, oh no, I did know it. I'm just going to re-remember for myself. Victoria's Secret Gaming Club. So shout out to them. Now, in first place was Matt Beasley. Matt Beasley, congratulations, he was in the 5-0 bracket, and Matt Beasley had a very classic Legion of the First Prince list. He had Be'lakor, Kairos, Bloodthirster, Incensant Rage, who was the general, Saves the Darkness Demon Prince with the Mark of Khorne, and then the Contorted Epitome. Sometimes you see the Blue Scribes in there instead. Sometimes you'll see that kind of mixed in. Sometimes you won't see the Bloodthirster, Incensant Rage, and instead you'll end up with 10 pink horrors, but we didn't get that. Instead, he went lighter on the battle line. He went for 10 bloodletters, 2x5 flesh hounds, Emerald Life Swarm, and Spell Portal. If you've listened to any of my shows before, you can just go back and listen to last week. You'll know how this list works. Maybe we'll do a big deep dive on it, but effectively, it's a blue control deck list, and he should be super proud of himself to running what is a very difficult list to run well, but when you can absolutely dominate and bully the the mid tables. Now, in the 4-1 bracket, we had Alex Gonzalez with a Vycross Dynasty, Soulblight Gravelord's army. He had the Vampire Lord Zombie Dragon with the Arcane Tome, which gives him an additional cast, so that allows him to do Flaming Weapons, and I guess Amethystine Pinions would be fun as well. He's got Radikar and Manfred, all the characters you can choose. You could choose most of the Soulblight Gravelord's characters and just kind of whip them around. The leader section is just full of quality, which is really fun, and none of them necessarily have a standout versus the other. They all do slightly the same job, but slightly different. They've got different buffs. Radikar, for instance, +1 attack. Radikar's also pretty cheap because he comes with 10 free direwolves, 2x10 death rattle skeletons and 10 direwolves. So your basic min battle line, which leaves way for your 2 units of 20 Graveguard, which are brilliant, amazing output from those great white blades, especially with the buffs that you get from Manfred, Radikar, and the Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon. So a super fun list piloted by Alexander Gonzalez. Now, also in the 4-1 bracket, we had Benjamin Schmillier. Definitely said that wrong still. But he was running a... where is Benjamin's list? Oh, yes. He was running... was he the Schmillier? Oh, yeah, he was running his Stormcast list, which was Celestin Prime, Lord Relictor with all of the usual goblins, High Priest, Mirror Shield, Translocate, can't shoot outside of 9 inches, 2-up rerollable teleport, Vandus Hammerhand, a Rune Lord, 4x5 Vindicators in a Stormkeep, Hammers of Sigmar Stormkeep, 2 Fulminators, 2 Stormdrake Guard, and 10 Shadow Warriors. So that's a unit of 2 Stormdrake and a unit of 2 Dracothian Guard, and then 10 Shadow Warriors. So no Longstrikes in this list, but he's still got he's got some good board control with the Vindicators, especially objective control. He's got a Rune Lord in there as well as a little ally, which is quite cute, with heal. And for a nice, good, cheeky unbind. And genuinely very surprised, not surprised to see this go 4-1, but just surprised at some of the picks. You feel like the Rune Lord and the Shadow Warriors have got more efficient picks inside of the own book. But I bet that would have been really nice on the tabletop and great to see it play out, basically. Maybe he's the sommelier of Stormcast lists. Maybe. Do you know what pairs really nicely with some Vindicators? A lovely Rune Lord. Yes. Yes. Then next up, oh no, someone in the YouTube comments being like, Rob's made a joke and laughed at himself again. There's no one else in the room, right? Like, fuck off, YouTube thug. Right, so then Jack Ballard with his Stormcast Eternals list was running. He had Bastion Carthlos. This is again a Signs of the Storm list with a Battle Mage. This is Hammers of Sigmar, Battle Mage, Bastion Carthlos, Lord Relictor, Knight Judicator, 4 Fulminators, so 1 unit of 4 Fulminators, 5 Liberators, and then 3 Ether Wings and 6 Vanguard Raptors with Longstrike crossbows. So 6. So I mean, I don't need to tell you about this list. But congratulations to him. That's fantastic. Then Beast of Nurgle also in the 4-1 bracket. So this was Cody Quigley. So he should be super chuffed with this. So Cody Quigley, he was running like what I would say is a quite common Maggotkin of Nurgle list at the minute. He was running a Befouling Host, and then that gives him extra summoning, which is really good for him to be able to get a Horticulate Slimux on the board to stop those pile-ins, stuff like that. Horticulate Slimux, Grit and Clean 1, Lord of Afflictions, twice 2 Lord of Afflictions, and then he had 3 Beasts of Nurgle, 20 Plague Bearers, and then 10 Beasts of Nurgle as well. So that Grit and Clean 1, obviously using Fleshy Abundance on the 20 Plague Bearers, the Beasts of Nurgle running and charging, doing Mortal Wounds when they go in, Mortal Wounds when they go out, the Lord of Afflictions for the double, Savage Spearhead, Battle Tactic, and also just pinning in your back line. Very difficult to get rid of once they're into the back of your in your back lines. You have to commit some real firepower to them, and while you're using that firepower to try and take down the Lord of Afflictions, the Plague Bearers have taken the MIG board, and you try and deal with them. You got Beasts of Nurgle charging in, charging out. So it plays like kind of like a pincer in lots of ways, and its ability to just stay around and hold you in place is very, very strong. And it's a DPS check army, but it's a DPS check army that really withers you down in attrition, which I think is good. Dude, you're right. You had a stroke reading that Nurgle list, did I? Horticulate Slimux, Great and Clean 1, Lord of Afflictions, 1, 2, 3 Beasts of Nurgle, 2 more Beasts of Nurgle, and 20 Plague Bearers. Did that not make sense? Or are you just being mean? Okay. Well, if I did, I apologize. How many total points? Then also in the 4-1 bracket, you had Brian Cox and Tyler Miller. So Brian Cox was running a Beast of Chaos army, and Tyler Miller was running a Host of Slanesh army, basically. So Brian Cox with his Beast of Chaos army, he had a Doomball, a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, a Grashrak Fellhoof, Zangor Shaman, and then he had 5 units of 3 Bulgors, 4 units of 3 Zangor Enlightened, and then 3 lots of 10 Ungor Raiders and the Mindstealer Spharanx. Mindstealer Spharanx makes you strike last, everything else is chaff, allowing the Bulgors to fight and hit you, and then he's got a control deck of Shaggoth, Grashrak, and the Zangor Shaman to control the board space, basically. 10 Beasts of Nurgle summon Horticulates to stop pile-ins. Yeah. It is a Beast of Nurgle list. Yeah. It's got Beast of Nurgle in it. I don't want to tell you. And then in the 4-1 bracket, you have also in the 4-1 bracket, you also have a Slanesh army, the Celestian Host. So this was run by, and big shout out to him, Tyler Miller, one of the most successful Slanesh players now. So he should be really chuffed with himself, as should Brian Cox, running around with his Beast of Chaos army. So that's really good. He was running Glottos, Shalaxi, the Mask Celeste, 2x11 Blitzbarb Archers, 10 Demonettes, and then 5 Painbringers. Now, I'm not really sure how this army works as an army, or how you put it together. I'm not sure how it did so well. So, like, I'm not really sure how it plays so well, but he did really well with it. I'm very surprised by the result, but I'm super happy that Tyler Miller was able to do so well with it, basically. So, looks like a super fun event, very dangerous event, but congratulations to everyone who did really well there. Okay, over in Norway, in Norway, in Moss, which is about an hour outside of Oslo, and one of the safer regions to live inside of Norway, which is pretty exciting. There was an 18-player event over 2 days, but it contained 6 of the 8 players who were playing in the Age of Sigmar Worlds team for Norway. So a pretty good field, basically. Now, no one went 5-0, but we did have 4 players who went 4-1. Tom Kenneth Solly with his Seraphon Thunder Lizard list is very much like the Thunder Lizard list we've looked at previously, but it had the Celestant Prime in it, which procs really well, as I've talked about many times, with the Realm Shaper engine and also the Slan's ability to do AoE mortal wounds. Then he had Danny Elstead with an Iron Jaws Bloodtooth list with big bricks of 6 pigs in his list. He had Stian Egbertsen with his Stormcast Eternals Stormdrake Guard spam list. And then he had Oysten Berg with his Legion of the First Prince list, which contained, I think he went for 2 times 10 pinks in his version of this list. So he went for Be'lakor, Kairos, the Demon Prince, and then the Contorted Epitome. And then he had 2 times 10 pinks and 5 Fleshhounds versus maybe a more character-heavy version. But again, that list doing really well, and them going 4-0. It'll be 4-1, sorry. It'll be very excited to see those guys play at AOS Worlds. Next up in Denmark, in the capital Copenhagen, once the seat of the Nordic Union, up until the Swedes abandoned them in the 16th century, we had a 50-player Warhammer Age of Sigmar 2-day event run in Norway, and it was won by Mr. John Hågard Menche, the only person going 5-0. He took Marathi and the Bow Snakes with more Bow Snakes. A lot of people thinking that 15 Bloodstalkers isn't enough, is enough Bow Snakes, so they don't take any more. However, the real trick is to add even more Bow Snakes into your list, and then 1 unit of Shadow Stalkers. So you had 15 Bloodstalkers, 10 Bloodstalkers, 5 Bloodstalkers, and then 9 Shadow Stalkers as well. And he was in the Calibron army. He had a Bloodrat Medusa and obviously Marathi Kane in his list. Then you had Casper running a Magikin of Nurgle list. He went 4-1 with a Glotkin and some other stuff, but he didn't format his list, so I'm not going to read it. And then Mathmalar, who is in the chat, running a Magic Heavy, which has led to a really good conversation with the chat about Magic Doms, if there aren't Magic Doms. I think that's a conversation to explore later, actually. So I'm going to talk about that maybe on the Monday night show. He had Blobe with Rancid Visitations, a great and clean one with Fleshy Abundance. He had the Poxbringer with Favoured Poxes, and the Lord of Afflictions with the Arcane Tome. And then he took Magnificent Bubos. And then you had 10 Puskil Blightlords, 20 Plaguebearers, 10 Plaguebearers, and 1 cheeky Beast of Nurgle with the Umbral Spell Portal. So very interesting list. And as he's in the chat right now, just talking about it, he said that he feels it's got lots of utility. Gustav Bay with his Karajan Overlords was running the Engine Master with Dirigible Suit. This is all in Barak Mornar. And then an Aetheric Navigator and a Celestant Prime, which genuinely I think the army needs something that can do some like punch or damage, like a fighting unit. However, he's got 2 units of 20 Archanaut Company, and having read this for the first time in a while, 100 points for 10 Archanaut Company feels like a great deal for bodies on the board and some light shooting. Light to medium shooting, I'm going to say, especially if you compare it to some of the other shooting units that we see in the 170 bracket. I feel like 10 wounds on a 4-up save for 100 points. It's a bit of a bargain nowadays, especially with some of the long-range shooting and good quality guns that the Archanaut Company can have. Then another 10 Archanaut, 6 Engine Riggers, and then a Gunstock Gun Hauler and the Archanaut Ironclad doing all of its shooting. Then we had Christian Muller with Stormcast Eternals list, also in the 4-1 bracket. These are all 4-1s. With Lord Commander Bastian Karthlos, a Lord Relictor, 3 times 5 Liberators, 4 Stormdrake Guard, and then 6 Longstrikes in his list as well. How did he do it? So that was the Battle of Copenhagen. So next up, we got Bloodshed in the Shire, run by the Bucks Wargaming Collective over in, I haven't actually checked the crime stats, but a fairly safe place, basically. There were 2 5-0s at this event, Mr. Mike Stewart and Max Barton. Now, you might recognize Mike Stewart's name because he's taken out many events in the UK recently. So he should be super chuffed with that. But Max also went 5-0. Now, Mike, for a small moment, was top of the TSN rankings. Very top of the TSN rankings, pushing Gavin out with his competitive Seraphon Thunder Lizard list. Now, Mike has been playing this a lot. He's been playing this list and going 5-0 with this list all the time. Unlike Gavin, who we haven't talked about the Lone Star Open yet, who also then went 5-0 a few hours later, but he did it unconventionally with gloomspitegitz. We'll talk more about that later. But what we saw inside Mike's list was a Seraphon Thunder Lizard list. He had an Engine of the Gods, a Slann, 2 Skink Priests, 3 lots of 10 Skinks, 2x2 Salamanders, and he had 2 Bastiladons with Solar Engine. So overall, like, very similar to all the lists that I've talked about with Thunder Lizard previously, and also we really have to put Mike's skill in here as well, because Mike has pushed this army around a lot. He's beaten a lot of players. He's done really well at several different events with different scoring systems, and he's pushed through for the win every single time. I got the opportunity to speak to Mike at Bobo, which he also won, and we did some coverage of one of his games. Lovely human being. Great win for him. Now, super happy for Max, also going 5-0 at Bloodshed. Max has been working super hard over the past few years to be able to get himself like a 5-0. He's played a bunch of different armies. He's tried Flesh Eater Courts. He's tried all sorts of different stuff at the right times, and I just don't think he's found the thing that really sits with him. And it's been really nice to see him grinding up and working up to this stage. And he has taken a Hammers of Sigmar army. He took a Knight Draconis. In my opinion, this is the Stormcast list. A Knight Draconis, unless maybe Dennis's list is better, but that's because Dennis is a legend. Dennis the Menace. He had a Knight Draconis, which had the Arcane Tome and Master of Magic and Flaming Weapons, 3 lots of 2 Stormdrake Guard battle line, and then he had a unit of Raptors and a single Stormdrake Guard. It's all in a 1-drop, and of course he had the Holy Command Thunderbolt Volley. So congratulations to Max as well. Congratulations to both those 2 players for going 5-0. So in the 4-1 bracket at this event, we also had a variety of different lists. Thank you to Jacob Berry for donating 5 gift subscriptions in the Twitch chat. What a lovely human being. Dan Bradshaw with a Living City list, very similar to Gavin's that we saw play at LVO. A Dorelia Van Danst, who only comes from Living City. Anointed on Frostheart Phoenix, the Freeguild General, and then 3x10 Freeguild Crossbowmen, 4 Fulminators, and 4 Stormdrake Guard in that 1-drop battle regiment. So congratulations to him. Then Matt Goldsborough with a very tough strength of schedule, doing really, really well. I think his first outing with his Seraphon in a while, obviously playing LRL and also playing with his Stormcast recently. Staking on with Skink Chief, Engine of the Gods, Slann Star Master, Skink Priest, and the Celes Toad Prime. The Celestant Prime in Hammers of Sigmar, 3x10 Skinks, a unit of Salamanders, and a Bastiladon. So everything we've said already about Thunder Lizard list applies, with that Celestant Prime also doing those mortal wounds, as I've talked about previously. How did they do it? Simon Weekly with, honestly, I did this at the list review and I still don't know. I am actually on a call with him later today, so I might get the opportunity to talk to him, but probably very much like his last Slaves to Darkness list, one of the most interesting lists we've seen in at least the UK in a while. Really, really is. Him, I guess Tom Maudsley, very often runs very different lists and does very well with them as well. So some of these players really mix up what we're seeing on the tabletop. So fun to see them experimenting. And this is one of those. It's a one-eyed Grunnock, Be'lakor. Then he has a Slaves to Darkness Demon Prince with the mark of Tzeentch, a Slaves to Darkness Demon Prince with the mark of Khorne, and then another one with the mark of Khorne, and another one with the mark of Khorne. And this is all into spoilers, so don't forget he's that's pro Demon Prince and able to turn stuff to midnight. And then he has 3 units of 8 Iron Golems, all with a mark of Khorne for holding objectives, and then the Emerald Life Swarm and the Prismatic Palisade. Now, it's fair to say this feels like an interpretation on 80 Max list that we've seen from the Dragon Slayers, which is obviously, we saw play at the Super Series and was really interesting. But this is that list. For me, I don't need to see another Stormcast list, a Seraphon Thunder Lizard list, Bow list. That doesn't really tickle my pickle, truthfully. But this stuff is amazing. This is so fun to see this go 4-1. So this is truly brilliant. So super happy to see that go 4-1. Also the captain for Team Wales, Phil Marshall, who's in the chat, lovely human being, was running a Slaves to Darkness host the Ever Chosen list, and these have dropped off in popularity since the Winter FAQ and the changes to Archeon. But he does have Archeon in the list, a Chaos Lord for the Pile and Attack twice, and the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, 2 units of 3 Varangard, and then a unit of Iron Golems as well. Then that big brick of 18 Untamed Beasts, so they come in 9s. So they've been reinforced twice, and the Mind Stealer's Phalanx. So the Mind Stealer's Phalanx meaning you strike last, and the Chaos Lord meaning you pile in an attack twice with Archeon, so you can do all of that damage before you ever take any damage back, which I think is genuinely very, very interesting. All with the Mark of Tzeentch, which is super cool, and because it's 6 circle, you get lots of damage from those Varangard units when they pile and activate twice. Super fun list. Love seeing it. Think you should keep playing it personally. Jack Armstrong. Living Cities list. He's got Deralia Van Danst, Free Guild General, Anointer Frostheart Phoenix. He's gone for 30 Free Guild Crossbowmen, 2x10 2x10 Free Guild Crossbowmen, and then he's got 4 Dracothian Fulminators and another 4 Dracothian Fulminators. So interesting to see he's played very similar to Dan's list as well. So his and Dan's list are very, 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 very similar. How do they do it? Richie was running the Legion of the First Prince list, Be'lakor, Bloodthirster, Incense of Rage, Kairos, Saves to Darkness, then 10 Pink Horrors, 2 lots of 10 Plague Bearers, Life Swarm, and Spell Portal. So very much like all the Legion of the First Prince lists that we've talked about already. He's mixed up the characters a tiny bit, and he's decided gone for the Pink Horror block in the middle, which I do feel is the stronger version. But he's then gone for a little bit more with the Plague Bearers and not gone for the Khorne Hound. So I guess it's really which units you're taking. He has taken the Safe Start Steam Prince, but he hasn't gone for the Contorted Epitome or sometimes the switch around Blue Scribes, which you sometimes see as well, and he hasn't gone for a Bridge or anything like that. So that's Richie. Laurie has got an actually really interesting Lumineth Realm Lords list. Some would say you need the Sentinels. He's got Teclis, he's got the Cenari Caligrave, and then he had 30 Wardens, 20 Wardens, and 10 more Wardens, and then 5 Dawn Riders with the Emerald Life Swarm and Spell Portal. So he still gets the Technado, which is obviously fantastic as a spell, which is AoE Mortal Wounds, Searing White Light cast from Teclis through the portal. He's got Life Swarm, which is pretty clutch for those very valuable and expensive Sentinel units. This is all in Alumnia as well. And unsurprisingly, it turns out that a unit of 30 infantry with 3-inch reach that do mortals on 5s to hit, that can teleport or double move, have a 5-up ward, and also can have like 3-up ignoring Rend 1, Rend 2 save, or an ethereal save, are actually really good for 435 points. Who'd have guessed? Who'd have guessed? Laurie really unpacking the army in ways that no one has ever done. So congratulations to Laurie. Truthfully, no one's been able to pick that out. No one's been able to work out that would be a good unit up until Laurie of Team England, an excellent player, has been able to do so. So congratulations to him. Owen Jackson with 3 wins and 2 draws with his Soulblight Gravelords list. Nagash, Vampire Lord, Necromancer, 40 zombies, and 20 zombies. So one of the few people I've seen pushing Nagash around at least this weekend and doing well with them. Necromancer, pile and attack twice. Zombies do the damage. Spell Portal, obviously, for some long-range Hand of Dusts. And then some Life Swarm, I guess, for Nagash. And he's also got Gorslav the Gravekeeper. So he's going to be able to bring zombies back and then just do mortal wounds, which is super nice. And then Dan Ryan, with his idonethdeepkin list, has gone for 3 lots of 10 Namati Reavers. This is pre the new book. The Tidecaster, the Eidolon of the Storm, Gotrek, 1 Alapex, and then 3 Ishling and a Leviadon. Love Gotrek in there as well. Super fun. I rarely see Gotrek play at all, so he should be super chuffed with himself, Dan Ryan. He should be really happy. Alex Bruce shouted this list out before. I think Alex has come to this event very smart. Like, he's really focused and he's really thought about this. And I think this is actually very clever in a game of always strikes first, always strikes last. In fact, actually very much like Safe Starts Phil. Yeah, Phil Marshall. Alex has done the same thing. He's like, oh, by the way, Fire Slayers can still always strikes first. So your dragons, when they charge me, or your Fulminators, when they charge me, I'm going to go first. And then I'm going to slap you back, which I think is super clever. Yeah. I think Alex is really thinking outside the box there. Like not really thinking outside the box, but he's understanding what he's playing into, and he's doing really, really smart, right? So, like, well done, Alex. I think this is great. And I called this before the event, right? They also activate the fight first before Bone Splitter's Big War 4+ goes off. That's true. So he's basically got the Fire Slayers list, which is 3 times 10 Hearthguard Berserkers. And then he's got a Rune Father, Rune Smiter, Battlesmith. And then he's got 10 Auric Hearthguard as well. But it's that Strike First ability, which I think is very, very clever, which also has been manipulated by Phil. So even though there's a lot of like very good like damagey units out there at the moment, the fact that these guys have just thought, well, I'll just make them strike last and I'll hit them first, has been super clever. So well done to Alex. Sam Saunders were on the Stenza but Helmet list. It's a double Boss of the Stomp, 4 bigs, 1 Kraken Eater, 2 Kraken Eaters, I was right, Gatebreaker and War Stomper, so that does whatever I've said before. And Mr. Ben Johnson, representing Games Workshop, went 4-1. He's only lost to kruleboyz, Draconis, Karazai, 3 times 2 Stormdrake Guard as a 5-drop. So showcasing that like Karazai has just let him down for that 5 win. So him taking the narrative choice there as opposed to playing all the power, just some of the power in that list. And that's Bloodshed in the Shire. So, our last event for the day is the Lone Star Open happening in Texas, the home of cryptocurrency. Most people don't know 20% of all cryptocurrency is actually farmed in Texas. So who'd have known? They've gone from black oil to black gold, to crypto gold, I guess. I'm not really sure. Okay, so this is pretty huge, as we've been alluding to all show. We have got a Gitz 5-0 at this 102-person event in Texas, the Lone Star Open. We have 3 people in the 5-0 bracket. We have Zachary Kennedy, we have Gavin Greiger, the head of the leader on the TSN player rankings, and then Jonathan Schulzus with his ossiarchbonereapers. Now, Zachary Kennedy, all 3 lists, pretty wild to be going, all 3 players doing really well with either armies that don't perform particularly well or having units in there that are pretty surprising. So Zachary's list, so he won the event, shout out to him, he's got a Seraphon Thunder Lizard list. So you would expect to see, well, I mean, everything we've talked about previously from the other Thunder Lizard lists, right? But he has an Engine of the Gods, okay, as is tradition, but then he has a Slant Star Mister with the Itzit Grubs, which I didn't even know, but gives reroll casts and a heal on the slant, which is pretty nice. The Pterodon Chief with a Fusel of Conflagration, so as has been pointed out in chat, it's a Pterodon Chief effectively with a Plasma Pistol, a Skink Star Priest and 2 Skink Priests, and then 30 Skinks, 20 Skinks and 10 more Skinks. So that -1 damage coming in pretty clutch on those Skinks, who still get all of the buffs from the Star Priest to the Skink Priest, meaning they're doing a load of mortal wounds, which will do really good into a high armor save meta, like for instance into Stormcast or even something like Iron Jaws. And then he had 6 Pterodon Riders, which you never see, so that's pretty wild. And then he had a Bastillodon with the Arc of Sotek, not the Solar Engine, the cheaper version, an Arc of Sotek doing mortal wounds in combat, and then he also had the Solar Engine as well, which is just amazing. So not only is it like a unconventional Thunder Lizard list, while Thunder Lizard have been doing really well, and I assume it's from the -1 damage, this is an unconventional, not as common version of the Thunder Lizard list, and he's got to be really proud of himself. So massive congratulations to him. That's fantastic. Also in the 5-1 bracket is Gavin with a Gloomspitegitz army. They have a 31% win rate. They have a first round loss rate of 71%. This is absolutely wild. Had he gone 3-2 at an event, it would have been something to talk about. He's gone 5-0. And this really puts down to Gavin probably being the most dynamic player that we've seen in the TSN rankings at the moment. He's put Beasts of Chaos to 4-1. Obviously, he did really well recently with his LVO list, which is a kind of more power pick Living Cities list that we saw play on the stream, if you guys want to go watch it back. But this was Kragnos, a Fungoid Cave Shaman, a Loon Boss on Giant Cave Squig. And then he had 36 Squig Herd, 2 times 12 Squig Herd. And then he had 2 units of 6 Sneaky Snufflers and the Scuttle Tide. So, like the chat have pointed out, 180 attacks from the Squig Herd attacking. Now, you are going to be able to listen to Gavin talk about this, I'm sure. They have a podcast called Harambe's Heroes, or their club is Harambe's Heroes, and they have a different podcast. But if I do find the link to the podcast, I will include it in the show notes below so you guys can check it out. But pretty wild. Pretty wild, to be honest, to see Gavin do this. He's got to be super chuffed, and it's created a big storm on the internet. It's a one-drop army. How he did it, I don't really know. Truth be told, I assume it's the 40% of the army that wasn't Squigs or Gloomspitegitz, and it was Kragnos that really helped elevate the army. But yeah, all over, really, really good. So well done to him. That's just genuinely excellent. And then also in the 5-0 bracket, you had... Oh, sorry, let me just make sure I get his name right. Also in the 5-0 bracket, you had Justin Gremiger. Jonathan Shilzius with his Mortis Praetorian army. So he had Catacross, which again is not taken. Normally, if you see ossiarchbonereapers, you're seeing Petrifex Elite. You are not seeing Mortis Praetorians. So then he's got Catacross in the list, which you very rarely see at the moment in ossiarchbonereapers. Arcan the Black, which you do see sometimes, and Liege Cavalos. Arcan for that spell dominance and also the ability to do some mortal wounds at range. And then the Liege Cavalos as the general. Then 20 Mortek Guard and 2 lots of 10 Mortek Guard, backed up by a Harvester to make them heal. But interesting to see them, again, not in Petrifex. And then just a Mortek Crawler. Very rare to see on the tabletop at the minute, a Mortek Crawler. But maybe it plays really well into some of the meta picks that he played up against at this event. So that's all... That's all of the 5-0s, and congratulations to all three, because they're really showing that the USA is ahead of everyone else at the moment. So Lone Star Open, 4-1 bracket. Loads of legends. I'm just going to shout them out, and then we're going to read through their lists. Justin Grimigo was running Seraphon. Thomas Guan was running Maggot Kid. Matt Rubbish was running Soulblight. Noah was running his Iron Jaws. James West was running his Maggot Kin. Marco Hernandez was running his Iron Jaws. Charles Wilson was running his Lumineth. Caleb was running his Seraphon. Brian Lofton was running his Ogres. Joseph Carnite was running his Stormcast Eternals. David Adams, Lumineth. Ryan Quirk, Cities. Matt Jackson, Stormcast. And then David Lewis, Legion of the First Prince. And Jacob Matthias is Ogre Tribe. So let's just fly through these, shall we? Our Lumineth Realm Lords list contains Severith, a Wind Mage, a Cathalar, 30 Sentinels, 2x10 Wardens, and 2 Wind Spirits. Amazing. A one-drop battalion. I actually think that that's a pre-AOS. Isn't that just the list from before? I didn't think you could write that list. I didn't think that that was possible to have that list. Anyway, because of the points change. Bang on 2,000 points for the perfect list. Class. Pure class. Love that list. A Seraphon Thunder Lizard list, also in the 4-1 bracket. So he's got a Stegodon with Skink Chief, Engine of the Gods, Sansar Master, 2 Skink Priests, 3 Saurus Knights, 3x5 Saurus Knights, 5 Camo Skinks, and then 2x Basiladon. So for all the reasons we've talked about before, with the Chameleon Skinks being cute, and I like that a lot. Ogre Tribes, Subfaction Underguts. This was being played by a legend, an absolute fucking hero, that's unbelievably powerful, that went 4-1. Where is this list? Again, who was running it? Brian Lofton. Probably, I mean, if Gavin hadn't won with Gitz, this would have been a standout moment. He's got Black Powder's Buccaneers, a Butcher, Hrothgron, and a Tyrant, 1 unit of Lead Belchers that's been reinforced twice, another unit of regular Lead Belchers, 2 units of unreinforced Lead Belchers, and a unit of full Lead Belchers, 4 Iron Blasters, a unit of Noblars and Mantrappers. Honestly, I don't know how he's done that. I don't know how he's done that at all. It's just incredible. He's probably a genius. Him and Gavin probably should be tested, and then their genetics kept, and we should breed more of them. More of them should be bred. They are powerful. rolls all 6s all the time. Congratulations, Tim. There was a Stormcast Eternals list in the 4-1 bracket. Aventis Firestrike, Lord Commander Bastion Carthalos, Lord Relictor, 4 Fulminators, 2x5 Liberators, 6 Longstrikes as well in that list. That went 4-1. We also had another Lumineth Realm Lords list, which was a Techless and a Stone Mage with Avlanor, and then 2x5 Stone Guard, a Life Swarm, and Cogs. Wow. Wow. It's fantastic. Oh, and a Wind Spirit. Okay, there's a cheeky Wind Spirit in there as well. Amazing. Fantastic work. Really well done. He didn't even have Cragbro. What legend? No, that's, again, great other Lumineth list. Six of Sigmar was another one on the list that went 4-1. Lord Arcanum on Griffcharger, Anointing of Frostheart Phoenix. Deralia was also in the list. 4 Fulminators, 10 Phoenix Guard, 30 Free Guild Crossbowmen, 10 Free Guild Crossbowmen. So pretty good. Those crossbowmen doing some good shooting. Fulminators coming in from the side. -1 damage. -1 to wound from the Frostheart Phoenix. Also in the 4-1 bracket, Legion of the First Prince, run by David Lewis. He had a Be'lakor, a Great Unclean One, Blue Scribes, Wrath of Khorne Bloodthirster. You'd never see that. Sorry, you don't see the Great Unclean One in there. That's pretty fun. And then a Bloodmaster as well. 10 Pink Horrors and 10 Demonettes. Oh, and 10 Plague Bearers. So again, playing like Legion of the First Prince normally does, but actually pretty different because of the Great Unclean One. So that's pretty wild, truth be told. Then there was another Ogres in the 4-1 bracket. So Frostlord and Stonehorn, Kragnos, a Butcher, and then 3 units of Mournfang and a unit of Noblars. Those Noblars coming in super clutch for these Ogre Moor Tribes army who are trying to take out the event. But they went 4-1, unfortunately. I think this is Noah's Ironjaw's list with some... Oh, this wasn't Noah's. So we had Ripper Snarlfangs, 10 Brutes, 5 Ardboys, double War Chanter, and then a Mega Boss and some... an Uruk Mega Boss on foot. Oh. An Uruk Mega Boss on foot. 2 War Chanters and Kragnos. Okay. Also in the 4-1 bracket, we had a Coalesced Seraphon list, Skink Star Priest, Enter the Gods, Slant Star Master, Coalesced. Nice. Thunder Lizard. 2 units of 20 Skinks, some Saurus Guard, and then 2 Bastillodons with the Solar Engine in there as well. I feel like there's something missing. Enter the Gods, Skink Priest, Slan, Skink Priest, Star Priest. That's a lot of points on Skinks, 220 Skinks. So there we go. Then you have a Magikin and Nurgle list went 4-1 with Gutrot Spume, the Glotkin, Soppity Bilepiper, a unit of 3 Plague Drones, a unit of 20 Plague Bearers, and then a unit of 10 Putrid Blight Kings. Wow. Wow, that's amazing. 500 points for that unit. Just popping disease off for mortal wounds all the time, countercharging with the Glotkin, or maybe even charging in with Gutrot Spume. Who knows? That's amazing. Shout out to him. That's fantastic. What a great list. Also in the 4-1 bracket, Soulblight Gravelords Castelli Dynasty list. Vampire Lord Zombie Dragon, Vampire Lord Necromancer, 40 Deadwalker Zombies, 2x10 Blood Knights. So reinforced both of those 10 Blood Knights. Wow, that's a lot. And then 20 Graveguard. You can get so much in the Soulblight Gravelords list. 20 Graveguard for 280 points feels like a steal. I know that they're slow, but that's super good. 10 Blood Knights for 390 points feels really good. 40 Zombies for 230 points. And you still got a Necromancer for Pine Attack twice, Vampire Lord for +1 attack, and then a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon to fight. Fantastic list. Really, really fun. There was also an Ironjaw's list, so this one will be Noah's. Running around, Mega Boss and Maw Crusher, 2 War Chanters, and a Weird Knob Shaman, and then 4 units of 3 Uruk Gore Grunters also as well, going 4-1. And then I think finally, if I didn't miss anyone out, another Maggotkin of Nurgle army going 4-1. Blobe, the Glotkin, 10 Putrid Blight Kings, but this is a different list. And then 2x5 Putrid Blight Kings as well. So just providing a massive DPS check for your opponent's army and them failing all but one time. So another 4-1 victory. That's fantastic to these players. So they should be super chuffed with that. Wow. Okay, so what have we taken away from this weekend? Okay, so the Stormdrake Guard, not as scary maybe as we've given them credit for. The longstrikes, not as much of an issue on the top tables as we have seen. It looks like many of those lists are performing into the 4-1 category. Maybe some of the Living City lists are doing well, but it looks like Max is the only dragon player to really push the boat out over the course of the weekend. Looks like some of the big bads are still the big bads. Seraphon, still out there, being Thunder Lizards and doing what they do. Marathon the Bow Snake still out there. And it seems that there's still room for experimentation and some fun with lists, and you play well enough, you're going to be able to push forward some of the weaker armies to massive wins in loads of different ways. Even some of the units that you might not see, even in a stronger army or stronger sub-faction for an army, pushing forward units you rarely see, like an Arca Sotek. So, like, it's a lot to break out from the weekend's results, truthfully. There's lots of information in there. We'll see what it does to the stats when we update the stats, which you can find on thehonestwargamer.com soon. But for me, I think the conversation about our magic dom's gone away. It's quite an interesting one. Is skill expression still something that's very relevant in Age of Sigmar? I'd definitely say that's true. I'd say I'd like to see standardized scoring at events, but that'll never happen. But that would be really fun to see, just for some sort of like true comparisons. But I think ultimately it feels like an incredible weekend for Age of Sigmar because there's some real hope. People like Gavin, for example, really producing hope for players that you can do more with armies that aren't as good. And I think that that's something really worth like talking about. It's something really worth saying that this is awesome for our game, that there can be these heroic moments, that these are overwhelming points in time where we can talk about how good it is that you can push forward these armies that people aren't really expecting. It's also true to say that I think that also Age of Sigmar really, with Age of Sigmar 3 obviously kind of launched just towards the end of COVID, with I think a lot of new people entering into the hobby over that period of time. And there's lots of new people and new players who haven't been playing much pre that 2-year gap, which I think is surprising a lot of commentators online. It's one of my favorite things to do this every week and every Monday is kind of deep dive it, because I feel like I'm getting to know the players from around the world and see them play and perform better and better. It'd be nice to see some more events coming out of Australia. That would be really fun. Nice to see some more events and stuff coming out of Spain and France and all these other all these other places as well. I know the Irish meta is really strong. It'll be fun to see some more Scottish results as we get into them in the future. But I think it does feel like it's like a new day, a new generation playing competitive Age of Sigmar and making their own way in there and doing their own things. And I think that that's fantastic. I think more and more of that in the future is really good, because it really upsets the power dynamic of kind of entrenched groups in Age of Sigmar. And so I'm super happy for that. I want to see more of that in the future. So big shout out to you. Thanks for listening. If you listen to this as a podcast or watching this back on YouTube, we do have a Patreon you can support by joining the Honest Wargamer Patreon. Don't post anything on there, but you're basically helping support the show. So thanks for doing that. And if you are listening to it back, I hope you enjoyed it, and stay hydrated and stay well.